The city air was thick and damp. It clung to my coat as I hurried down the steps to the subway platform. It was late, the kind of late that feels like the world has already gone to sleep without you. A bone-deep tiredness had settled in me weeks ago, a permanent resident in my body. The platform was nearly empty, just me and a few other shadows leaning against the grimy tiled walls, staring at our phones, or into the dark tunnel. The digital clock on the wall flickered from 11:58 to 11:59. Each minute felt like an hour. Loneliness was a physical thing, a heavy ache in my chest that the day's work and endless meetings could not distract from. It waited for these quiet moments to make itself known. The train finally came, a screech of metal on metal that echoed through the cavernous station. Its arrival was a small, temporary relief. I stepped inside, the doors sighing shut behind me, sealing me in. The car was mostly empty, a long tube of pale, buzzing light. I found a seat by the window, the plastic cool against my skin. The city lights began to blur as we moved, smearing into long streaks of color against the dark glass. It was a beautiful sight, I suppose, but I felt nothing. I was just a passenger, moving through a world I didn't feel a part of. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels was the only sound, a steady mechanical heartbeat. My reflection stared back at me from the window, a pale face, dark circles under the eyes. I leaned my head against the cool glass, the vibrations rattling through my skull. This was my life, a cycle of waking, working, and returning to an empty apartment that still didn't feel like home. It was a weariness of the soul, a feeling of being adrift in a vast, indifferent ocean. I closed my eyes, wishing I could just disappear into the motion, to be carried away to somewhere, anywhere else. The train slowed as it pulled into another station, its brakes groaning in protest. The doors opened to an empty platform. No one got off, but one person got on. A woman. She moved with a strange, unhurried grace, as if the rushing world outside had no claim on her. She wore a simple dark coat, but there was something about her that drew the eye. She looked around the car, her gaze passing over the empty seats before it settled on me. Her eyes held mine for a moment longer than was comfortable. Then she walked down the aisle and took the seat directly across from me, a silent and deliberate choice. She sat with her hands folded in her lap, her posture perfectly straight. She wasn't young, but she wasn't old either. Her face was a map of lines that spoke of laughter and sorrow, but her age was impossible to guess. For a few long minutes, she said nothing. She just watched the darkened city slide by the window, her expression calm, almost serene. I tried to look away, to retreat back into my phone or my own thoughts, but I couldn't. Her presence filled the space between us, a quiet but powerful force. The air grew heavy, charged with an unspoken question.
You look tired.
Her voice was low and clear, cutting through the rhythmic clatter of the train. It wasn't an accusation, just a simple statement of fact. I was startled, my carefully constructed wall of anonymity breached. I mumbled something non-committal, a half-word of agreement. I didn't want to talk, but she didn't seem to notice my reluctance, or perhaps she chose to ignore it. She just continued to look at me with those unnervingly perceptive eyes, as if she could see straight through to the core of my weariness. She smiled, a small sad curve of her lips.
It's not the work that's tiring you out, is it? It's the waiting.
The question hung in the air between us. How could she know? A shiver traced its way down my spine. It was unsettling, this stranger's intuition.
She continued, her voice a near whisper. We wait for the right job, the right person, the right time. We think our lives will start when those things arrive, but they don't. Life is what happens in the waiting room.
Her words were simple, but they landed with a strange weight. It felt like advice I had heard 100 times before from books and movies and well-meaning friends. Yet, coming from her, in this flickering, sterile light, it sounded like a profound and dangerous truth. I found my voice a little shaky. What am I supposed to do then? The question felt foolish as soon as it left my lips, a child's plea for answers. The woman's gaze softened.
You're trying to build a house on ground that is always shifting. You keep looking for solid footing, but there is none. The trick isn't to find solid ground. It's to learn how to dance on the shifting sands.
Her metaphors were unsettling. They offered no comfort, no easy solutions. A sudden lurch of the train made the lights flicker violently, plunging the car into near darkness for a second. In that brief moment of shadow, her face seemed to change.
You carry a great weight from your past, a promise you think you broke. But a key is not a cage. You can still use it.
With a deafening screech of metal grinding on metal, the train shuddered to a violent, unscheduled halt. The lights flickered one last time, and then died completely, plunging us into absolute darkness. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the emergency lights flickered on. The seat across from me was empty. She was gone. It was impossible. The doors hadn't opened. There was nowhere she could have gone. I scanned the car, my eyes darting from one end to the other. The few other passengers were looking around, confused and murmuring, but no one seemed to have noticed her existence, let alone her disappearance. My gaze fell to the seat where she had been sitting. In the center of the worn plastic seat was a small folded piece of paper. My hand trembled as I reached out and picked it up. With a deep breath, I unfolded the paper. It was not a note. It was a photograph, faded and creased. A picture of two young children, no older than 10, sitting on a park bench. They were smiling, their arms around each other. One of the children was me. The other child, the friend I had lost, was holding up a small, ornate brass key. And beneath the photo, in faded, elegant handwriting, were 5 words. I'm still waiting. Use your key. Her key, the one I had in my pocket, the one I thought was for my apartment.